Right in the heart of the Congo jungle, navigating the dangerous roads of South Kivu is no piece of cake. This journey is very often described as one of the most exhausting, frightening expeditions one could ever have. If you're looking for a thrilling documentary on survival, you've come to the right place. Hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned to experience the real jungle fever. Juvenal, who is the lead in this documentary, is a seasoned truck driver. It's his journey there in these woods that we'll be documenting. Juvenal faces horrible battles on his latest mission, transporting 2,000 liters of petrol to Shabunda. Where is this mysterious Shabunda? It's a town in South Kivu, and a pretty isolated one too. You'd expect him to stay equipped with a fancy and resistant truck K, but he's out here in the woods in his simple German military truck. Though ancient judging by the time of this truck's release, it does a fair job of transporting items. At the very beginning of the journey, you notice a few unlucky signs. Well, let's just start by saying one of the first things he witnesses is a dilapidated bridge. The bridge looks like it can fall apart anytime soon, and the wooden planks are worn and might not hold much longer. Not willing to risk his life on that flimsy bridge, Juvenal decides to find an alternative by paying villagers a good sum of money for a much easier route. However, the villagers, taking note of their vulnerability, decide to demand a highly unreasonable sum of money. They were for a whole of 30,000 Congolese francs. This is equivalent to 16 pounds. Ultimately, they end up having to rethink choosing the dangerous bridge. And though this decision is driven by the necessity to save money, it sure will have its own set of consequences. They have a really tough time navigating through the uneven and bumpy roads of the jungle. These roads have probably not seen maintenance in decades. Juvenal fully depends on his mechanics. He believes they would be the only members of the crew who are capable of ensuring the truck remains operational. The journey doesn't get any better from here. With each passing mile comes more and more challenges to face. Now and then the truck's wheels often get stuck in mud or rubble. The mechanics work on this without any brakes, while all they have are a bunch of basic tools. In places like Congo, the governments have usually abandoned infrastructure development, which is why survival becomes all the more difficult. Villages look lifeless as they have mostly deserted, and transporting supplies becomes a task on a whole other level. This task sure is a test for Juvenal and his team, a test filled with the thrills of these woods. If the road so far was a nightmare, you wouldn't believe what the road to Shabunda is like. It's a disastrous combination of mud, steep slopes, and dangerous terrain. Not the kind of place one would want to go exploring. The truck keeps breaking down now and then, since it's overloaded and is being tested by the horrendous roads. The whole journey consists of one setback after another. After a certain point of time, it was no surprise that the truck kept breaking down, and the crew constantly experienced mechanical failures. One very repetitive mechanical failure during this journey is the clutch disc. At one point, the whole crew assumes all is lost when the recurring issue of the clutch disc happens again. The crew is now stranded and exhausted. The only thing that motivated them to keep going was Juvenal's determination to reach Shabunda. Though exhausted himself, he musters all the strength he has to encourage his team to keep morale high despite all the setbacks they've faced. The mechanics, who were in awe of him, somehow picked themselves up and once again managed to repair the truck after several hours of back-breaking work. Shabunda, being one of the most isolated places the world is known, has some pretty high costs of living owing to the small population. The town completely depends on exports from outside brought in by trucks and planes. Petrol prices are incredibly high and unreasonable, reaching 4 pounds per liter due to transportation difficulties. Food prices aren't any better either. The basic essentials and groceries here cost 3 to 4 times more than in other parts of the country. So, for the most basic raw ingredients, the villagers are forced to pay through their noses. The situation is horrible for the residents of Shabunda. With the constant issues of shortage of petrol and other supplies, the quality of the people's daily life and economic stability are a complete mess. You wouldn't believe us when we tell you this, but the cost of living is higher here than in many European cities. And we know Europe is a pretty expensive continent in itself. Now, this creates a paradox where the abundance of natural resources, like gold, contrasts sharply with the poverty and hardship faced by the locals. Having tons and tons of gold reserves almost contributes to nothing in the daily lives of these residents. Ironic, don't you think? The journey through the jungle also very clearly gives us a picture of all the risks faced by those transporting goods, making it harder to find people who are genuinely willing to take up the transportation. Now we're passing the lead to the driver, Junior. Junior takes over from Juvenile. Junior doesn't have his half of the journey any easier than the previous one. He too constantly faces the wrath of these treacherous roads. As if the bumpy roads weren't horrible enough to deal with, there were also much larger obstacles blocking the way, such as fallen trees or other unidentifiable objects. Not to mention the risk of hijacking by armed groups. That was almost inevitable in a place like this. Junior's truck, though equipped with 8-wheel drive, is prone to having breakdowns every now and then. What kind of challenges might this truck be dealing with? Let's just say a broken windscreen, damaged by a falling branch, is only the beginning of the damage it's about to face on this horrible route. No matter how challenging the journey got, he continues to push people to take these dangerous journeys. After all, this is literally a human treasure hunt, since the gold rush in the region is driven by the discovery of precious minerals like coltan and cobalt. Such wealth has led many to risk their lives in search of all this gold. One of the factors playing a crucial role in this gold rush is the Ulindi River. But just like how nothing big comes easy, this river too brings to the searchers a whole series of dangers and obstacles before they can actually get to the gold. Let's not forget to mention all the illegal mining operations and how much hazard they have caused to the scene. Those illegal minings are one of the most major contributions to the region's horrible ecological crisis. The river is completely possessed with mercury, which a lot of us may know is a byproduct of gold extraction. Mercury can be horribly harmful to the health and well-being of the local population. Miners like Kojak face perils such as these almost daily as they dive for gold in the river. The work is literally playing with life and death. It is physically demanding and dangerous and can be expected at any second of the job. It also includes high risks of drowning and encounters with armed natives and other groups. But then again, it's gold they're going after. And the allure of gold sure has its way of attracting people towards it, even at the risk of death itself. Here we have Kojak, whose experiences tell us about a near-fatal accident where his boat sank, underscore the high stakes involved in mining. However, what's so sad about this whole gold rush is that none of it benefits the locals all that much. Despite the abundance of resources, the benefits almost never reach the local population. A perfect example of how unfair the world can be at times. Corruption and exploitation are unending affairs in this region. The worst part is most of the profits from gold mining often flow to foreign companies and corrupt officials. It is never used to improve conditions for the Congolese people. This explains the spell of poverty the locals are under. So what have we learned from this journey full of bumps and obstacles? The road to Shabunda and the challenges faced along the way reveal how harsh is in South Kivu. The high cost of living, the risks associated with transportation, and the environmental impact of mining all paint a sorrowful and grim picture of the region's struggles. What we can really choose to admire here is the spirit of survival and the pursuit of a better life for the people of South Kivu. They are really some people worth looking up to. No matter how unfair their lives have been, they continue to hope for a better future and refuse to give up. As the journey comes to an end, the question remains, is living in such conditions a viable option, or is a brief visit enough to grasp the reality of life in South Kivu? Let me know in the comments. And with that, we've come to the end of our video. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Curious about the 10 places that will make you question everything you know about science? Watch this video to uncover the unbelievable.